There's nothing good coming out till Friday. Might as well tackle something I've gotten 9 million requests for. House Llc is written and directed by Stephen Cognetti. It stars Ryan Jennifer Jones, Gore Abrams, Danny Bellini, and Jared Hacker, and it tells the story of a documentary film crew investigating the unexplained events that killed 15 tourgoers and staff members at a Halloween haunt. This is a pretty interesting film. First of all, it's a docu-horror flick. You guys know I'm a sucker for those. It also manages to tell a pretty unique story, placing the point of view in that of business owners who just happen to stumble upon something really horrific. And at times it almost feels like the Blair Witch Project in terms of its realism. And I liked it. It's far from perfect, but it manages to tell a really compelling and extremely creepy mystery at times. This movie managed to be one of the better docu-horror films I've seen, and I really applaud Stephen Cognetti for not only knowing how to build some serious atmosphere, but also how to show an incredible amount of restraint. Most of the time. It would be really easy for a director of a film like this to take the easy way out and make it just a bunch of shaky cam and spooky ghosts and loud jump scares and screaming. But for most of the film, Cognetti takes a really different approach. And thanks to the documentary-style framing of the movie, it manages to work really well. Make no mistake, the narrative style they chose for this film is what makes it effective. And it's a really prime example of how to make a docu-horror film shine. You get to see several different takes and perspectives on an unexplainable event, which you only end up seeing small hints of, which forces you to put the rest of it together in your head. The idea of giving you only small glimpses as to what happened through very limited first-person perspectives, be it photographs or low-res cell phone footage or a 911 call or a YouTube video, it really lets your imagination run wild. And it makes the overall idea of the film and what could have happened in the basement at this haunted house all the more terrifying. That's peak subtlety. You know something unexplainable happened. You hear something about maybe someone getting pulled into a wall. You know that a bunch of people are dead. That's it. And ultimately, where this movie shines is scaring you with what you don't see. A clown statue moving on its own or moving its head, a shadowy figure in a doorway, a piano playing off in the darkness somewhere in the house. These all sound pretty cliche, but this movie handles them in a really expert way, because it builds a world that feels ultimately very grounded, and the characters all feel very realistic. They're assholes sometimes, but it's never to an unrealistic degree. They feel like real people who are stressed out trying to run a business and also are just dealing with this really unexplainable, creepy-ass shit happening to them. And it's because of this grounded style that the scares work so well. The aforementioned clown is probably the creepiest part of this film, and I'm not even afraid of clowns, but the setup of it is absolutely brilliant. They establish very early on that it is a dummy with a fixed head. It can't move, so that sucks because they can't pose it in any way they want. And then later on, when it starts appearing in places that it shouldn't be, with its head turned to face the camera, that is creepy as fuck. There are other really great scenes involving strobe lights and things that are appearing when the lights turn on that shouldn't be there. And honestly, one of my favorite scenes, just because of how innocuous it is the first scene when Paul is talking to the camera at night and there's a shadowy figure that just walks into his room, stands there for a minute, and walks out. It's not exactly subtle, but it is very restrained, and I really appreciate that. When this movie chooses to be restrained, it's really great. But it's when it starts to show you a bit too much that it starts slipping a little bit. Around the third act, it actually does start showing you things, and the things it shows you are far less scary than what you had pictured in your head. At best, the creepy shit looks lame, and at worst, it looks cheap. Which, I can't fault the movie too much, considering it is obviously a very low-budget film, and they do a great job with the money they have. But there's a scene where there's a ghost girl in Paul's bedroom, and it goes a little too far, and it just seems more silly than scary. And that's just the first instance of this film really showing too much. After that scene, the whole thing starts becoming a little more formulaic found footage, and a lot of the attempted scares are things that we have seen before. It starts abandoning the more subtle, restrained scares for creepy, white-eyed ghosts and shaking the camera and screaming. And that brings me to my biggest issue with the film, ultimately, and that is the ending. The way they choose to end this film after they have a brilliant ending a few minutes prior, they could have just stopped it there. They keep it going, and it goes just way too far and becomes just really silly and a little hackneyed, and I was not a fan of it at all. It's lacking all the subtlety and nuance of the previous 80 minutes, and it bothered the hell out of me because they had a great ending, and they just kept it going too long for the sake of an ending scare that is really just predictable and lame. Overall, though, this is a really well-made low-budget film. It's certainly not my favorite docu-horror, but it's far from the worst film I've seen done in that style. I'm going to say that House Llc is solid. It's a fun, low-budget film with some truly effective scares and a really tense, unsettling atmosphere. But unfortunately, it stumbles a bit and goes a bit too far in its third act, which kind of leads to it feeling a little more standard than it should. Still though, I would say it's worth checking out, especially since it's streaming free on Amazon Prime. If you have it, you should watch it. Apparently there's a director's cut of this film floating around there somewhere that explains in detail what happened in the basement and shows you, and I don't think that should exist, personally. Arguably the scariest part of this film is how much it leaves unknown, and revealing that would just cheapen the hell out of this film. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, click down there and like and comment and subscribe. And if you really like this channel, I have a Patreon now. There are some cool rewards as incentive, everything from a special thanks to you guys getting to pick the movie I review once a month. Patronage is on a per video basis, but Patreon is great in that it allows you to set a monthly spending cap for yourself. So if you want to see me get some new equipment, be able to improve this channel, be able to do more with this channel, please consider donating. Even $1 helps. As always, guys, thank you so very much, and I will see you very soon.